Quentin Tarantino might not have directed a film since 2019's Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, but the writer and director has been keeping himself extremely busy. He wrote a novelization of the film following its premiere, and a sequel he wrote is currently in the works at Netflix and will be directed by David Fincher. Pretty exciting overall, but Tarantino is behaving cautiously as he approaches his next directorial project. Why? Well, it's gonna be his last, and there has been speculation that it's bringing its own kind of pressure, as the Movie Critic, a project that was reported in the Hollywood trades earlier this year, and that was set to be that final directorial effort, he ended up walking away from. But why exactly did this muted film join the likes of the Vincent Vega brother prequel and his Django Zorro movie on the scrap heap? And is this whole last movie thing making things more difficult than they need to be? Let's talk about it. Hey everyone, Ewan here for What Culture, and it really does feel like we're living in the strangest timeline sometimes. Like, Tarantino's a podcaster now, and David Fincher is directing one of his films for a Netflix partnership that never seems to end, and it's a sequel, and we still have no idea what QT is cooking up next, and it's been like 6 years since Hollywood dropped, which is a long time. But thankfully, or regrettably, depending on your opinions on Tarantino, he is quite a vocal person, and just the last week he has been talking about why he stepped away from the Movie Critic. There was some speculation in the Hollywood trades earlier this year, which he is sort of rebuffed, but let's get into it. As per Variety, speaking to the Church of Tarantino podcast, the writer and director said that he moved away from the Movie Critic because it was basically too similar to Once Upon a Time in Hollywood in terms of how it was going to stimulate his creative impulses. Quote, "I wasn't really excited about dramatizing what I wrote when I was in pre-production, partly because I'm using the skill set that I learned from Once Upon a Time in Hollywood of how are we going to turn Los Angeles into the Hollywood of 1969 without using CGI. It was something we had to pull off. We had to achieve it. It wasn't for sure that we could do it. The Movie Critic, there was nothing to figure out. I already kind of knew, more or less, how to turn LA into an older time. It was too much like the last one." Now, for those who don't know, the Movie Critic was not going to be set in 1969 and was in fact going to take place a decade later in the 70s. There was some, again, speculation and reporting from the Hollywood Reporter that it was going to be a spiritual successor to Once Upon a Time in Hollywood and that Cliff Booth was going to be involved, but Tarantino has come out and said quite the opposite. In fact, he's given us quite a lot to go on here. He said that originally the Movie Critic wasn't going to be a movie and was in fact originally envisioned as a sort of TV miniseries. He also said that Brad Pitt was going to be the lead, but not as Cliff Booth, which obviously, you know, that movie, the Once Upon a Time in Hollywood sequel, is something that he said he developed after walking away from the Movie Critic. Quote, "The thing about the Movie Critic is I really like it, but there was a challenge that I gave to myself when I did it. Can I take the most boring profession in the world and make it an interesting movie? Who wants to see a TV show about an effing movie critic? Who wants to see a movie called The Movie Critic?" That was the test. If I can actually make a movie or a TV show about someone who actually watches movies interesting, that is an accomplishment. And I think I did that. Which, okay, like, non-taken QT, but critics are cool. We all love a critic. I'd happily watch a movie about a critic if they were interesting and cool. Things that I and many other movie critics aren't, but still, you know, the actual premise of the Movie Critic about it being set in the 70s and involving a guy who writes movie reviews for a porno magazine, that's a pretty interesting topic. Kind of feels a bit Boogie Nights-ish, just due to the adult connection. But yeah, no, I think it sounds interesting, but maybe I'm weird. And also let me know in the comments below if you would have liked to have watched a movie about a movie critic, because again, it kind of feels like a really cool full circle moment for Tarantino, given the fact that, you know, he started out this career as a film fan, and obviously if you go all the way back to something like True Romance, the lead character, played by Christian Slater, who is very much a QT surrogate, is, you know, he's a movie obsessive. I think there's something compelling about the idea of Tarantino kind of going to the well of movie criticism, and especially, given Cinema Speculation, the non-fiction series of essays he wrote back in 2021, I believe. Great book, some weird hot takes in there, but overall a really cool insight into his actual opinions on cinema, his formative influences going to the cinema from his childhood, going into the days of the 70s, and, yeah, I think that would be interesting. And for those who are bummed out about the Movie Critic not being made, well, there is some slight hope that Tarantino may return to the project. He said that if it sparks his interest, he could come back to it, which would be pretty cool, and again, there is some precedent for this. If you cast your mind back to like 2014, when The Hateful Eight was going through the motions, the script got leaked after he did that little cool mini theatrical performance thing, and he ended up walking away from it and saying, well, you leaked it, so now I'm not gonna do it. And then obviously, in the end, he did make The Hateful Eight, and it was great. That's a rhyme. Basically what I'm saying is, he has done this before. Tarantino is aloof in terms of, the stuff that is catching his eye at any given moment. So, yeah, I don't think we can entirely say that the Movie Critic won't be happening. It probably won't, but at the same time, he thinks it's one that he could bow out to, or maybe give the script to another director. Well, those things could happen. We've already seen it with David Fincher, and obviously back in the 90s we had like Natural Born Killers, and again True Romance, which are done by Oliver Stone and Tony Scott respectively. So again, this could happen. As for what Tarantino has got cooking up immediately next, well, he's apparently going to be doing a stage production on London's West End, which he's targeting for a 2026 premiere, which, I don't know about you, that's going to take a lot of time and energy, so it could be that we're waiting a hell of a lot longer for that 10th movie to actually drop. Like, there is a lot that goes into directing an actual stage production, so we could be waiting like another 5 years potentially for this 10th film. And again, it's easy to look at this, the cancellation of the Movie Critic, the other mooted projects that got cancelled, and the fact that he's doing theater next as some kind of, negative aspect of the self-imposed 10-movie limit that he put on himself back during the early 2010s. But Tarantino has come out and said otherwise. Quote, "It's a little crazy to listen to podcasts and hear all these amateur psychiatrists psychoanalyze as if they know what they're talking about and what's going on with me. About how I'm so scared, alright, of my 10th film. Oh my god, I'm so fragile about my legacy. What's going on? I'm paralyzed with fear. I'm not paralyzed with fear. Trust me." Which, okay, that does sound pretty drillish, but as long as he's happy and the creative juices are flowing, then hey, who are we to judge? And also returning to that Hollywood Reporter article from back in April that was talking about why the Movie Critic didn't happen, they had this to say about that 10-movie limit. Quote, "The question now becomes, what next? Tarantino has been talking about retirement since as far back as 2009, when he said he wanted to quit directing films before he was 60. He's been talking about ending with 10 films since at least 2014. Some of his previously considered yet unmade projects include an R-rated Star Trek movie, a Kill Bill Volume 3, and a Django and Zorro team-up. Whatever his eventual choice of project, the 10th and final designation will surely result in an unprecedented amount of fan and media anticipation for the film, which perhaps only adds to Tarantino's self-generated burden to get his last one right." And again, I don't want to be overly generous to Tarantino in this particular instance, but I feel he's always had this exacting process to pretty much every movie he's done. He takes a lot of time to get something right. And I think that this one isn't any different. Yeah, I do kind of think the whole imposed 10-movie directorial limit is maybe a little bit silly, but it's not like I'm gonna yuck anyone else's yum about this. I mean, some directors will want to be Martin Scorsese and be directing until they're in their 90s, and others may want to just bow out at, 65 and just go, hey, those are some pretty good movies that I made. And he's also said that he's going to still continue writing, so it's not like we're going to be completely Tarantino deprived in the future. And again, I'm also kind of looking forward to that, maybe a return to the era of seeing other directors put their spin on his material. That's kind of exciting in and of itself. And generally, I'm just really looking forward to whatever he has coming next, and I'm willing to wait for it. You know, we've got lots of good movies coming out in between now and whenever that's going to happen, so yeah, I guess I'm saying let him cook. But yeah, I want to know what you all think of the Movie Critic stuff down in the comments below. Do you think that Tarantino was right to walk away from the project if it wasn't creatively stimulating him? Or do you think he should maybe be a little less picky? I don't know, let me know down there. Drop the video a like if you enjoyed it. And if you want an extra long slice of what culture goodness, we recently did a video on physical media and why it isn't dying despite reports coming out all the time saying that it is. It's a really good video, in my opinion. You should go check it out. And yeah, I've been Ewan. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye.